Welcome back to the $1 million Tipping Point podcast. Today, our guest is Heather Roberts. I think you guys are going to really like her. She focuses on helping women and help them break their boundaries or create more boundaries, basically, right? And create a lifestyle business that really works for them and they're not, chain and ball wrapped around their business anymore. So as a reminder, this podcast episode is brought to you by Corporate to Contract, the number 2 in there, the place to go if you have a corporate or office experience and want to take the skills you have and become your own boss and online contractor. You can go to the website, corporate2contract.com, where you'll find a course. You can join a cohort and get group coaching. It's all done by yours truly, so head over there. Don't forget to sign up for the Tipping Jar of Wisdom while you're there. If you love the podcast, so as a subscriber, you get exclusive content every Thursday straight to your inbox from guests like Heather, who can help you out in growing your business. So head over and connect with me on Instagram at Virtually Kiri or LinkedIn, Kiri Mohan, and sign up through my bio. So Heather, welcome.
Yes. Thank you, Kiri. I'm so excited to be here. This is great.
Heather Roberts is an experienced entrepreneur and business mentor who helps high-achieving women create a business that fits their lifestyle. With over 16 years of experience building and exiting successful 7-figure businesses, Heather specializes in implementing efficient systems, building the right team dynamic, and focusing on revenue-generating activities. In addition to her expertise in business, Heather offers guidance on prioritizing personal needs and overcoming limiting beliefs. Through her Director's Chair one-to-one full-day immersion, Heather teaches extraordinary women how to avoid burnout and find balance. So again, thank you so much for being on the show. And our audience is extraordinary women. So I think that you're going to have such a strong message for them. So again, thank you so much. Tell us a little bit about your business and what you do with the Director's Chair, the immersion, and all that.
So this most recent venture, Extraordinary Women, is about 1.5 years old. I started the company because I was noticing a lot of colleagues and friends and, quite frankly, like people in the grocery store were all kind of, it wasn't that they were burned out. It was that they weren't taking care of themselves first. And whether they were people pleasing to their business or people pleasing to their families. And so that really was the driving factor. I like to use the analogy of, do you remember back when we were in like kindergarten and first grade and you got to be the line leader that day and you were so excited, right? You come home, you're like, Mom, you're leader. So the whole purpose of Extraordinary Women is to get us back to being the line leader, because through the years, things happen and we take 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, 4 steps, 5 steps. And then all of a sudden we're the 10th person in our line of our life. And we help people prioritize, work out, create systems, make sure their business is what they really wanted and how they want it. Same thing with creating boundaries around, family, friends, team members, all of these things. And so that's what we do on our Director's Chair VIP, is you get the same concept. You have to be the director of your life or the line leader of your life. And so that's what we do, or I do, in Extraordinary Women. We also have a podcast called Boundaries, Business, and Boobs. And we interview women who are kind of living their best life and they've gone through all of the challenges already.
I love that. Yes. And you know what? I did want to bring up your podcast later, but thank you. Tell us a little bit more about what they can learn from your podcast if they're interested.
Yeah, they can learn literal actionable tips on how to create better boundaries, how to set them, how to define them, how to overcome burnout. What have other people done before you? So it's all about putting actionable steps in place so that you can follow your own path.
So going back a little bit, I saw that you were the co-founder or are the co-founder of RSG Sales, an agency that specializes in helping home decor and furniture suppliers grow their e-commerce sales channel. And you said RSG Sales has consistently been $1 million company for the last 5 years. In addition to that, you also founded eBay Design, a decorative throw pillow company. So cool. Within 2.5 years, you guys were a top 5 pillow supplier at Wayfair. 2019, you sold eBay Design for a generous 7-figure plus exit. What from these 2 companies made you realize you could help women and start this Extraordinary Women business?
Well, two things. One, when I first co-founded RSG Sales with my husband, I had been a stay-at-home parent for 14 years previous. And I had massive imposter syndrome the first couple of years. But something that I realized is in my stay-at-home parent life, I was raising money for organizations. I was running PTAs. I co-edited a cookbook. I was in charge of everything that had to do with our family. I was that serial and professional kind of volunteer and had kids with learning disabilities and all of these things. And I learned a couple of things. I figured out, I should say, a couple of things. And the first one was that I learned how to create consensus with people and could build a team. And I understood, basically budgeting and P&L and all of those things. And I'm very systems and detail oriented. All of those skills are required to be a successful entrepreneur. If you can't do those things, if you cannot build consensus, if you cannot figure out how to have a team, if you can't figure out what systems you need, and if you can't understand your P&L, then you probably need to get some help. You can learn these things, but you need to probably get some help. And so once I embraced that, it was then everything really, really took off for us. And my husband realized that I have the skill set to be to be the CEO of the company. His skill set is better suited in another area. And that's the balance that seemed to work for us. I got an itch, and that's why I started eBay Design. I wanted to prove to myself that I could do what other companies were doing, right? So I was giving a lot of design consulting and trend advice and color and all kinds of things for other people that really wasn't part of our scope, but I enjoyed it and kind of got an itch. And I said, hey, I want to step back from so much of the day-to-day of RSG sales, and I want to try this. And I want to see if it can make it happen. And so the company just turned 10. It is still thriving. It is still it is just killing it. And, RSG sales is now 16 years. So I know how to help women build successful businesses because I've done it 2 times, 3 times over. So, it's all about learning, doing things, making mistakes, and then teaching other people not to make those mistakes.
Yes. Yes. And how do you find clients for your Empowering Women? Are they people through your network that you have through the agency, and then through your decorative throw pillow, which I always trip over saying that.
That's
decorative
okay.
throw pillow company? Or was it just people like you said, people in the supermarket that you met? How did you find clients? Because it's different.
Oh, it is very different.
It's a coaching consulting role versus these agencies and companies that you were running.
Yeah. No, I only work with women by invitation. So someone can get referred to me, but I basically interview them to make sure it's a right match, because I hate to say it, but I feel that women have been put in this position where we built businesses that were really of a business model from the 1950s, right? By middle-aged men. And we haven't realized that there's a different way until we feel overwhelmed and stuck and kind of like, what the heck do I do now, right? And so many group coaching programs say they're going to help you fix that. But just as Heather is completely different than Kiri, and Kiri is different from Heather, the only way you can really help somebody, I believe at this level, is through one-on-one intensive days. And it's not just a one and done, it's let's do one, let's do it again in like 3-4 months. So we get you actionable plans and steps to go to each next level in your business. And it's by invitation. So I interview them to make sure it works. So I have people, it's basically it's referral, or I have some people who've reached out through my podcast. So yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about, I read that through this experience and everything that you've learned, that you were working 60, 70 hours a week,
Oh yeah.
and you've been able to make it to sometimes 2 hours a week.
Yeah.
Are you able to share how you do that? Or
Yeah.
can we get into that a little bit? Like, what does your team look like? Who are the people that support you so you're only working 2 hours a week?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was of the thought that it was easier just to do it myself. So I was like the big bottleneck. And what I did was, this is what I teach everybody, super old school. It's a 2-week time study. And if you could stand it, track your time for 2 weeks in 15-minute increments. And when you do that,
Wait, can you explain that a little bit more with the 15-minute increments? Because I've worked with a coach before and I had to track my time, but I don't understand what you mean by that 15-minute increment. So every 15 minutes, just see, what are you working on?
Okay. Write down what you're working on every 15 minutes. And if it's changed in that 15 minutes, then write that down. So the reason we do that is they're going to come up with 3 categories of tasks that we're doing. One is category number 1, that is revenue generating. Number 2 is I have no business doing this. I am spending more money by having me do it than someone else. That becomes the delegation. Category 3 is we don't need this in the business. It's not congruent with us. Let's get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
So after your 2-week time study, or at the end of every day, you rate the different functions of 1, 2, and 3, and then make a list of all the 1s, all the 2s, and all the 3s, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything that's in category 2 that you need to delegate, great. We need to now then figure out what are these skills? What type of person do you need? Can we contract it out? Can it be, or do you need to bring somebody in? There's different ways to do that. When you do this exercise, you will find that you have freed up your time exponentially, and that you should only be doing the things that are actually making money for your business, and tracking it.
So what is an example of a number 3? We don't need this in the business, because I feel like a lot of women business owners think everything is needed in the business.
Yeah. Okay. So this is contrary to how everybody is right now, but from a social media standpoint, where are you getting your people? Where's your audience? Like, really, truly, where's your audience? If your audience is on TikTok, then you need to double down on TikTok and Instagram, because they correlate. If your audience is LinkedIn, what the hell are you doing on TikTok? See what I'm saying? So what you need to do is lean in to the things that are where you're getting money. Quit doing all of the bright and shiny things that don't matter.
Okay. That's a good example. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to me a little bit about your team right now that you have supporting you in this business, or in your RSG sales too. That could be really interesting.
Yep. So right now I have myself and 2 other team members. And one is our graphic artist / social media person. My second person helps with, she's kind of a jack of all trades. She's kind of like the EA. So she does a little bit of everything. She helps manage the podcast. She helps find like interesting articles and topics and things like that. So it's, she does some invoicing. It's like everything, calendar management, inbox, that kind of stuff. She does a lot of various tasks. My main responsibility is obviously coaching and content. So I will make the content and then I don't look at it again. And touch it again. Those other people do that. And so it's my job to do things like podcasts and to work with women. So, yeah. And I'm able to set things up so that I can be very flexible in my schedule. RSG sales is a much bigger team. There is myself right now. I'm more of the chairman of the board role. And then there's my husband, and we have 1, 2, 6, 7 other team members. So there's 10 altogether. Most of those team members are full-time. We have one that's like 3/4 time. And the way we break that up is there's an executive assistant for my husband. And then we've broken up other roles by account. So like Overstock, Wayfair, Amazon, Target, that type of thing. So we have, and then we have like people, maybe they cover 2 accounts, maybe they do Home Depot and Macy's or something. So, but that's how we do it. And so that anything that's related to that project or that client, it goes to that person. And then so that my husband's skill set is high level sales, running big teams and national accounts and so forth. So he is in the strategy of it. Everybody else is more in the admin side of it. We have somebody who does our marketing and ads and so forth for us. And so they're very much involved in this. I work with them to be on the strategy side of things. And so, yeah, that's how we did it. We've had many different iterations of it, but this is what it is now.
So you've definitely handled teams of multiple different personalities and different skill sets. What do you think are some mistakes you made when hiring, and how have you learned from them?
Don't hire friends.
Oh, okay.
Do not hire a friend or a family member. Now, if you have a family business, I'm going to give you a tip. If you do have family business, then you need to have very clear boundaries, but also roles and responsibilities and communication rules and, ability to say time out, or, is this a business conversation or is this a personal conversation? Are you talking to me as this or that? So you have to be incredibly clear with those lines and boundaries. The other mistake is when you hire somebody that's not your friend and team members, remember that your business is your business. It is its own living and breathing entity. If somebody isn't up, performing at the level you need them to, then you need to be quick and let them go and find someone who can do the job. So, hire slow, fire fast.
Heard that a lot on this podcast. Yeah. You work with your husband, and I've had a few people on the show who also have started businesses with their husband, and they all have like such different stories and different advice. What is your advice for working with your spouse?
Goes back to 2 things. One, making sure everybody's role is really, really clear so that there's no crossover. Second, we have time boundaries. So you're not allowed in our house to talk about work before 8:00 in the morning, and you can't talk about it after 7:00 at night, unless you ask for permission, meaning, hey, this popped in my head. Is this an okay time for me to talk to you about this? And it's okay to say no. Like 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. No. However, let's do this first thing tomorrow. When you get to work or whatever. So those are my 2 biggest. And remember, work is work. Work is not your personal life.
I noticed when my husband started working from home, we don't even work together, but we would clash a lot more because he wakes up at night and I am dead to the world. Like and he wants to talk. It could be personal or business or like share ideas or whatever at like 9:30. Hey, let's look over the schedule for the next week and see what our daughter is doing. And I'm like, whoa, and I just like shut down, we had to learn pretty quickly. Like, I would be like, can I talk to you about this at 2 p.m. tomorrow? Like,
Yeah.
because we couldn't do morning because he's not a morning person. So when I
Yeah.
barrage him in the morning, he's like, I can't, Carrie, I don't.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So we were like, okay,
Yeah.
our sweet spot is like 2 p.m. So like we actually have to start being like, all right, we're going to talk to you like about this in the afternoon. I put it in my calendar and we would like, cross over into each other's room and say what's going on into each other's
Yeah.
office. But
Yeah.
it is important, I think, but I've interviewed one woman, Jess Glazer DeRose, if anyone wants to go back and listen, but she and her husband, I mean, they talk about business all the time. He's a CEO and she's a chief visionary officer, and just all the time, doesn't matter, that's just how they roll. And I was like, good for you. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I also noticed there's a difference between women, business owners who are with their husbands who have kids. I've noticed a big difference there too.
That was
So they
going to
didn't have
be,
children. Yeah. So they
I,
didn't have children or yet. And I think that makes a big difference because every other woman business owner I've met, it's like they have very clear boundaries with their husband.
100%. I agree with that statement. And I know, just like that other couple, I know several couples where they work together and they don't have kids, and it's on 24/7. And I'm like, God love you.
Okay, one more personal anecdote. I remember reading articles, before we had kids that said, go out on a date and don't talk about kids and don't talk about your job, don't talk about work. And I was like, but why? We love talking about work. Why wouldn't we talk about that? Now we go on a date and I'm like, nope, I just do not want to talk about this at all. And I couldn't understand it before kids, but then now there's just too much in my brain. I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So backtracking a little bit, you mentioned when you helped your husband with RSG sales, and when you got into that, you had a lot of imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
What happened with your mindset, and how did you work through over the years to become someone who was able to build 7-figure businesses, exit with 7 figures, et cetera, and then create this new business?
I can tell you the exact moment. I was in Las Vegas for the Las Vegas furniture market, and I was with a client, and Neeraj Shah, he was the co-founder of Wayfair, had previously called and scheduled an appointment with myself and the client to talk about at that time, their new initiative of Castlegate, which to customers, that doesn't matter, but it's a very exciting thing that happened within, if you're on the supplier side. And we were sitting at that meeting, and Neeraj was given his, trying to get us to do it and so forth and so on. And I looked at him and I said, okay, all of this sounds good, but I see 3 flaws, and this is what they are: 1, 2, and 3. And he looked at me and he said, nobody had thought of those yet. And I was like, okay, cool. Be great if you could get back to us on those 3 things. And sure enough, it was actually later that night, because we actually had all stayed in the same hotel, but it was later that night, and we were passing in the lobby, and he was like, Heather, I have an answer for you, but I'm going to tell you tomorrow. And I was like, cool, that's great. And that was when I was like, I belong at this table. I belong at this table. That's what made me realize that I could do it.
So what advice then do you have for people who struggle with imposter syndrome, who might not have a defining moment like that?
Okay, this is what I tell everybody to do, because imposter syndrome, we all know, is really about confidence, and confidence is a muscle that has to be built. And there are different ways we can do it, but the one that I have found that is the most successful in the most rapid way is every single day, write down one thing that you love about yourself. After you start doing this, make a commitment. I'm going to do this for 7 days. At the end of the 7 days, look back and what did you write? What do you love about yourself? I mean, nobody ever talks about that. We talk about gratitude. We talk about, things we excel in, we're not good at, all this, but we don't talk about what we actually love about ourselves. I've now proven this, but, through hundreds of women, when they start to do this after that first 7 days, their confidence does increase. They feel more sure of themselves. And then check after 30 days. It's increased again exponentially. Go back and check it in 6 months. And you'll find that a lot of the things that you were afraid of aren't there anymore. They're not, they were just stories you told yourself in your head. And when you can go back and look and say, no, I am good at this about myself. I am good at this. I do love this feature of myself. I mean, then you're going to have days that you're like, no. And if the best you could do is saying, I'm having a good hair day today. The rest of the world sucks, but man, my hair is on point. Plus, I love that for you, So this doesn't have to always be deep. It doesn't have to be intense. It just has to be something.
And do you think that women struggle with this more than men?
Yes.
Why do you think that is?
Because our entire lives, I think some of this is more like maybe more parts of where you were like raised in the world. But from the time we were little, we were taught to be nice girls. We weren't taught to stand up for ourselves. We weren't taught to be assertive. We were told to be nice. Be nice.
And it's a
polite,
hard balance even now. We have a daughter who's 7. And there are times she's very assertive. But then there's times when you can tell other kids are put off by it already at age 7. It's like, and they're calling her bossy, and she's like, why are they calling me bossy? And like the teacher's telling us, like, you have to work with her on compromising. And if the kid doesn't want to be the dog in the vet game and wants to be the vet, she has to be like, okay, there can be more than one vet. I don't have to, there's like stuff like that, like, there's blanket stuff, which is true for everyone. But I've noticed like with girls, there's a lot more pushback, a lot more like, wait, you're being way too assertive here.
Yeah. And that continues. We have 3 children. They're in their 20s. I have 2 girls and a boy in the middle. And it was when my girls got involved in sports, did their confidence really start to grow and their ability to kind of stand up for themselves more, because when you're part of a team, there's an instant connection and you have an instant goal to beat the other people, and you want to work as hard as you can to be the best as your ability. And I don't think as a society, I'll go back to my 1950s reference. In 1950s, 80% of women were stay-at-home parents, stay-at-home moms. The men went to work. It was a woman's job to raise the family. However, she was not able to have her own checking account. She couldn't have a credit card. She was completely and solely dependent upon that man. She couldn't buy a car. She couldn't lease an apartment. She couldn't buy a house. None of it. So it's only been a little over 60 years since that. So if for us as a society to go from that 1950s model to now where, we are saying as women, no, I want control of my life. I want control of what happens. There's a lot of stuff we got to work through as a society to make that happen. And so, yes, 100%, there is a reason that women are not as confident as men. And it has to do with the way society has treated us through the decades. I mean, it wasn't until the early 1970s that a woman was able to open her own bank account. That's in my lifetime.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to be political. I'm not trying to be any of that, but that is the reality. So, women my age who are in their early 50s, I mean, the things we have been told in our life have been, be nice, be quiet, don't raise a ruckus, the boys are smarter, faster, bigger, blah, 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 blah. Great, you're going to get a job, but it's just a job until, you have kids and then stay home. These are all of the things. I mean, in the way I was raised, my parents basically were like, hey, Heather, your sum total of life at this point is we want you to get married. Like that's literally people that are around my age. That was what happened. And that makes you think, well, what else am I good at? And so, it's just really that's the reason. I mean, society has told us as women that we are not worthy. And it's just time it stops. The one thing that I can say with pretty good confidence is that the younger generations, like of that of my daughters who are a really young millennial and a Gen Zer, they don't think that way. Nothing is impossible to them.
Oh, I hope so. Because it's like going back to my daughter and like the bossiness versus assertiveness, and at what point is she just not compromising? And at what point
Mhm.
is she being like, maybe put down, like not even by other kids really. Well, sometimes,
Right.
but it's like, where's that balance? Like where it's like, no, it's okay to say stuff like that versus like, maybe
Mhm.
you could have said that kinder without being like, be nice. Cause there's all these little things I struggle with, right? Cause I do want her to be kind. I want her to be respectful, but I don't want her to think that's her only role or
Yeah.
their
So
only personality.
a great way to handle that is to say, can you think of another way to say that?
Yes. I have said that before. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you think of another
She
way to
hates
say
it when
that?
I say that, but yes.
Mhm. I love, can you give me two different ways to say that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and things like, teaching them to critically think and think outside of the box is what will help. And having and empowering them to be able to say no. Like, I hate it when I see parents. This is off the topic and I'm sorry, but I
No,
hate
it's
it
okay. I
when
know we're going off, but that's fine.
I hate it when I see parents who are like, go give them a hug. I know this is your aunt and you haven't seen her in, 400 years, but go hug her. No, you are sending the wrong message. You are telling that little girl that if she doesn't want to do that, she has to anyway, because she's being told to. And that's like, that stuff, it forms foundations so that they're in their teen years and they're put in situations that they don't feel like they can say no. It's just all of this matters.
Yeah. Especially if we want to raise the next generation of women who have the boundaries,
Yeah.
like you're saying, and know how to say no and know how to not be a people pleaser and bend over backwards to make anything work.
And how to ask for help in the right way.
Yeah.
Not like I'm a victim and I need help, but this is what I'm trying to do, hey, who can help me along the way?
So let's shift back then to business. Let's talk a little
Sorry.
bit more. No, I like these conversations. Trust me. And you have a lot to say because you're working with women who probably have internalized or have dealt with these kind of things before and are learning to bring it forth in their business. What do you think was the most important action item you took to grow your business to $1 million?
Great question. Two things. With RSG sales, it has been consistently don't chase the money, meaning stay true to ourselves with the clients that we really can help. Don't take that client that, we can make it work. And yeah, it's $30,000. No, don't do that. I've made that mistake more times than I'd like to admit. So stay true to your company values, your ideal client. If it don't make something work and fit. With by Design, it was systems, automate. We still do that with RSG sales. Don't get me wrong. Like, systems are super important. We have ways things have to be done and checklists that have to be, all of that. But the thing that I think with by Design, the thing that helped us scale so fastly was automation and systems. Extraordinary Women is different because I'm at a different age and stage. Extraordinary Women is, let's put Heather first. I actually am taking the month of June, July, and August off. I'm not working at all. As it is now, I don't work Mondays and Fridays. I only work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I don't work before 10 a.m. and I don't work after 4 p.m. The reason I'm successful this time is because I am so firm in what I want to do and who I work with, that If it's not the right person, awesome. Let me help you find that right person. Let me refer you to someone. You know, I'm not going to make it try and work. I'm not hustling. I'm doing this the way that it's the right way.
That's
I've done all the
hard. And
mistakes.
it's hard to teach people that too. And I think that a lot of that comes from experience, which is why, you're teaching women this. But yeah,
Yeah.
it is difficult. Was it always a goal of yours with especially RSG and then also the E by Design to hit 7 figures, or did it just come about organically?
Once we hit 750, I'm competitive. I was like, oh no, we're going to make this happen. Yeah. Yeah. It was, and E by Design has done multiple millions, by the time I sold it. So, you know, yeah. So I think that's what it is. I'm competitive. And so when I saw 750 at RSG sales, I was like, we just need to make a couple little tweaks and we're going to get to where we want to be. And it's still growing. So we're $1 million plus year after year.
And I like that you had that competitive streak. A lot of people I interview are like, no, it just came organically. And I'm like, yeah, but there must have been something,
Oh, no.
like,
yeah. Yeah.
um,
And yeah. So I was flat out competitive.
what do you think are your best and worst investments, especially you now with 3 businesses? What are your best and worst investments? And is there any correlation or similarities between them?
Actually, it's across the board. It's the same thing. Systems. Everything needs a process and a system, and it needs to be documented. It does not have to be fancy. It can be a Loom recording of 5 minutes of this is how we post something on, I don't know, LinkedIn or TikTok or whatever the heck it is, but everything needs to have a system and a process. And the best thing to do is make sure it's a living document that gets reviewed every quarter, because things change.
Yes. Even with softwares and systems, things
That's
change.
what I'm saying. Yeah, they
the
change.
way you did it before. Yeah.
May not be the right way. So have that. Number 2, team. Hiring for fit over skill set. Someone could have the most amazing skill set in the world, but they can be a complete jerk, which completely throws off everything. Hire for fit. You can teach anything, especially if you have all your processes in place.
Your facial expression there made it seem like you definitely hired someone who was a complete jerk. It looked
yeah,
like you were reminiscing or like had like a flashback.
Yeah. I've done that. Like I've made every hiring mistake there is possible to make, I swear. So that would be 2, 1 and 2. And then the third one across the board is remember that you are not your business. Your business is its own separate living and breathing entity. And when you treat it as such, it becomes a lot easier to make decisions.
Almost like you're keeping it at arm's length, which I mean, just like have an objective view almost.
It's an objective view.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, what do you advise women when you're working with them to stand out from competition and competitors?
Be true to yourself. There's only one you. There's only one you. It's kind of like the dating process,
I've made that analogy before, so I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, it's like that. So there's only one you. And I mean, like, I know I am not everybody's flavor, and I am A-okay with that. I know that they are women out there who do want to work with me because they feel like a connection and I can resonate with them. But it is, you're not going to like everybody. Don't try to, and don't try to be somebody you're not. Like, I'm a little dorky. I'm a little goofy. I'm an introvert, and I am never going to be 100% put together all the time. It's just who I am. I'm a little bit of a hot mess, there's always something. And that's okay. Cause that's me, that is me. Like, I am surprised that during this interview, I haven't had a dog barking or, you know what I'm saying? There's things, and understand that that's life. And that, the more you try and put forth this perfect persona, the more plastic and fake it is. And so be yourself, I hate the word authentic, genuine, be yourself. That's the best thing you can do.
And it relates back to marketing too, because I tell my coaching students, you might love scrolling Instagram or TikTok, but when it comes to actually making them yourself, it might just really stress you out. So where do your strengths lie? What's true to you? And for me, at least, I'm very true. I love long form writing and reading. So for me, LinkedIn and places like Reddit or other forums are much better for me than Instagram. Even though I love Instagram and I'll scroll it and I have a business account, my social media manager posts on it. For me personally, it's just so much better to read long form and type back long form. It's just me. It's who I am. So focus there and focus your efforts there, and it won't feel like a drain,
Exactly.
And that's also in a way being true to yourself and being authentic.
Exactly. And then when you do that, somebody on your team can break it all apart and repurpose it for you.
Exactly. So tell me, what are the biggest mistakes you think you've made with any of your businesses, and how did you learn from it?
Well, I touched on this a little bit. Hiring the wrong people. That has been that. And I made a $50,000 software mistake with eByDesign. And let's just say, once you've made a $50,000 mistake and you can survive it, then, it was kind of early on, but there was a company with an automation system that we were going to put in and help improve productivity for order processing. And the day we had tested it, but on a not big enough scale. And that was my mistake. I knew better than that. And the day that it went live, it blew up everything in the company.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, it was bad. It was horrible. We, had to go back to pulling every order and, by hand, and like we had to even hand do shit. We couldn't print shipping labels. It was awful. It was,
oh my gosh.
It was bad. So yeah.
And how did you recover from that mentally? And how were you able to pick yourself back up?
Well, it was my fault. What I was trying to do is, there was a bigger software system that was $100,000, and it's going to take us $100,000 to do it. It was going to take 6 months to get it all 100%. I ended up going with for a different company. It was only 50 grand, and implementation time was really much better. So I thought, I went cheap instead of right.
And it was a $50,000 mistake.
Actually, if you think about it, it was really $100,000 mistake, because I ended up paying for, I ended up spending $100,000 on what would work, and I didn't get all my money back from the first side. So, yeah.
So share with us a little bit. Where do you see your business going, your cover business, Empowering Women, in the next 5 years?
Great question. I think that in 5 years, I will have a team of women that will be working for me, that will be working with, that will do the day-to-day, the coaching, the work, some of the stuff that I'm currently doing. That's my goal, is to hire some women who can do that for others, just so it's not just me. I see that I'm going to continue speaking on stages and in bigger ways. And I'll probably have written a couple of books by then. I know one's coming out in the next year or so.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. If you remember, you can send it to us and we'll put it back in the show notes. We'll retroactively put it back in the show notes. That would be great. You mentioned off air, and I wanted to discuss just a little bit before we wrap up. What hurdles have you specifically faced in growing and running your business as a woman?
So I gave you the defining moment that was empowering to me. I didn't share with you the like one of the worst moments. This was at a different trade show. It was a High Point Furniture Market. This is when I was with RSG Sales. I've been there. I think the company was about a year and a half, 2 years old. And I was sitting with our client and so my client and then his number two. And we were with our buyer again from Wayfair. And the number two was just really misogynistic. It's the best way to put it. Every time I said something, he, said kind of the exact opposite. And so we were sitting in this round table in their showroom, and the Wayfair buyer was talking about this initiative and how we had opted in on it and what the success rate was. And And the fella, it is important to note that the number two was a cousin of the guy who owned the company. He was not excited with the results. He thought there was a problem. And I said, no, listen, this is why we do this. This is what has happened. This is what's going to continue. You've got a 35%, month after month growth rate here. It's going to continue to work out. You've increased your efficiencies, blah, 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 blah. And he reached over at the table and put his head on the top of my head and patted it and said, "Aren't you sweet?"
Oh my God.
Yeah. I was equal parts offended, angry, wanted to burst out in tears and run away and punch him in his face.
I can't even imagine. Like, I'm trying to think of how I would react. And it's in those situations, like when you're an outsider, you think, oh, I would do this and that. I would put him in his place. But I think when you're in it, you're so shocked and you're
oh
just
my
like,
God. I don't
did
know
this
who
just
was more
happen?
shocked, me or this Wayfair buyer who was a woman, or my client. I just went, okay, I think we're going to wrap up right now. And I took the buyer, walked her to, her next appointment, apologizing profusely. She was like, no, it is not, and I turned him and I was like, have you ever been so mad that you're like radiating and you're like,
Yes,
like,
yes.
okay, that's how I was. So I had to like take a lap and I went back to the client and I said, I'm sorry, but effective immediately, I will no longer work with you anymore. I will not be treated like that again.
Wow, good for you. Because that also takes guts.
And and then I literally then went like outside where there was like a little area I went outside and I just kind of was sitting there and I was shaking. I was pissed. It was awful. But
Ugh.
yeah, that, and having had those imposter syndrome problems, that God, hit me, in all the fields and all the places. Ironically, it was 12 months later that I had the aha moment of I did belong.
Mm. Mm. I wonder what would have happened if you had that aha moment prior. I wonder how that would have played out.
I know.
Like if you would have been to his face, like, excuse me, or so. I don't know. Right? Yeah. Like it's just complete differently. But
it was just,
my goodness. Oh gosh, I'm like having trouble getting over it.
I know. I mean.
So what advice do you have for other women who are trying to reach 7 figures with their business? Why do you think some women hit roadblocks and fail and don't make it?
Because they do what people think they should do. They're like, oh, I should have this. I should do this. I should. Like Tony Robbins says, you should all over yourself. And that's what we do. We don't listen to our own voice. And if you need help, then ask for it. but don't create something that doesn't align with you.
Mm-hmm.
That's my best advice. Don't create something that doesn't align with you. Don't worry about what the competition is doing. Focus on you. Be your own line leader.
I was thinking about that earlier because my daughter, again, 7, line leader, big deal.
Big deal.
Like, big deal. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good analogy. It really is. All right. So where can we find you? Please share your website, social media handles, anything if our listeners want to connect with you.
So you can go to extraordinarywomen.co. That's my website. You can also go and follow the podcast on wherever you get your podcast. It's Boundaries, Business, and Boobs. And the social media handles on Instagram, it's at Boundaries, Business, and Boobs. Same thing with TikTok and LinkedIn. It's just Heather Roberts.
Great. Thank you. Okay. So what is one philosophy, mantra, or quote you try to run your business by?
Be true to you.
Very nice. That sums it all up. So thank you again, Heather, for joining me on this interview. And for our listeners out there, if you found Heather's advice and knowledge valuable, which I'm sure you did, just do us one little favor, help us grow the podcast and share this with one person that you think would really love it. And even if you have to open the podcast app on their phone, they'll thank you for it. So until next time, you can find me on LinkedIn, tag me on Instagram at Virtually Curie. And if you're part of our newsletter, you'll be getting the exclusive content from Heather on Thursday. So if you're not part of our newsletter, please sign up because this is going to be some good actionable steps for you to follow to grow your business. So Heather, thank you again.
Thank you. Appreciate it.